Okay, so this is episode 2 of C Sharp. I'm using Visual Studio 2012. You can download this from the Microsoft website. Visual Studio is an IDE, which I talked about in the previous episode. Get the Express version because that's free, and well, you can buy the full one if you want to, but Express is fine. So do new project at the side, select Visual C Sharp, console application, and then name it. So I'm going to call it episode 2, and then press OK. So this gives you a lot of auto-generated code, such as this wasn't here last time. It's okay, just leave it there. Give it a name. Give our project a namespace, which is kind of good. I probably should have done that in the previous episode. And it gives you string array args here, which is for command line arguments. I'll get into that in a later episode. So first I need to show you commenting. So if I had Console.ReadLine, again this is used to keep the console window open when run. If I do double forward slash, then this is a comment. I should put this keeps the window open. And then I'll show you a block comment, which is where you do forward slash star. This is a block comment, and then end like that. And then finally you can have inline comments. So if I had console.WriteLine, I can do some string. String is the word for text, basically, like loads of characters in a row. String, and then told you. And basically you can put your comments within the line, but you cannot put it here or within the speech marks. That would be wrong. But I could put it here as well still. I can use normal forward slash here. See. So let's go back. Now I need to show you variables. So I'll show you the list of variables. Let me get the picture up I made. Here are the variables. I've got a website a picture as well here. So this had alphabetical, which wasn't really that helpful, but it has the ranges here and the default values. So quickly have a look at that. I've got the ranges on here anyway, most of them. So here are the integer types, like whole numbers. There are signed and unsigned. Signed means it has negative values. If it's unsigned, then you get double the amount of positive values, but it can't go negative. It starts from 0 and goes to a high number. Here are the values. For these two, the numbers are too ridiculous to put on. Same here. But yeah, you can see the 2 to the power and work it out yourself if you want to. For signed, most people use int. For unsigned, most people use byte. It's just what tends to get used most. So this can only have whole numbers. Floating point data types have decimal numbers, so 17 decimal places for float, double 14 decimal 28. It's rare they would need decimal. Most people use float. I use float majority of the time. Yeah, decimal's good for extreme values for scientific notation. There's also logical types which hold true or false, 1 or 0. Pretty boring. Then there are character types which hold Unicode characters, 16 bits per character. And then there is every data type on here is a native data type for C Sharp, except for system.string. System is a namespace that has the class of string, but you'll use it a lot while you're programming. It's a class that contains many chars, basically. And that's about it. So let's get back to programming. To create a variable, you do the data types. I'm going to do int, followed by a name of the variable. I'm going to call it a, but you can do a whole word, but I'm going to call it a. You cannot use any of these words when you're making your variable names, so keep that in mind. I can say int a and then say a equals 7, or I could do int b equals 5 and do it on the same line. I could then also say a equals 3, and now b will be 5 and a will be 3. if I do int c equals a plus b, actually I'll do this here, then console.WriteLine c equals c. So when you do this statement, c is an integer, and because you're doing a string plus a integer, it converts the integer into a string, and then it performs string concatenation, which is a fancy word to mean join two strings together, and then that's sent as a parameter to the WriteLine function. If I then do here below console.WriteLine c equals plus c, I need to do c equals a plus b once again. You should get two values for c. It should be 12 and then 8. Yeah. So that's integer addition done, and subtraction works, multiplication works, division works. There are more operators, but I'll cover that in a later episode. Okay, let's do float. Float a equals 5.5. This would be wrong because you need the suffix of f to make it work. If you're doing a double, you need the suffix of d, and if you're doing decimal, then you need a suffix of m. But for float, we're going to use f. Okay, so a equals that, float, b equals 4, console.WriteLine. You don't even need to make a variable for the output, you can do the addition on the same line as the output message. So c equals, there isn't really a c, but oh well. If I do a plus b, this is going to output 5.54, which is wrong because it's converted the float into a string, concatenated the two together, converted the b into a string, and then concatenated this with the b to make one long string. So what you need to do is put brackets around the a and the b, because bit mass and stuff. If b was an integer, this would still work. It would convert the a into a float. Then it'd be float plus float makes a float, and then it'll be string plus a float. It'll convert the float into a string, and then do string plus string makes a string. That's pretty much that. There is the data type of bool, short for boolean, which is basically just true or false. I'll get more into this in the next episode, so just allow that for now. Char. This is just hold single characters like space, A, capital A, musical note. I don't think I'm allowed musical notes. No, I am. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, that's allowed. And I don't know, like some weird symbol. Yeah. So that basically does that. And then I can just output A, and it'll convert into a string, and then pass it to the function. It's just going to output A. It's going to be pretty boring. Then there's strings. Oh wait, first I need to show for characters. If you wanted to have, say that's equal to backslash, this won't work because backslash means it's called an escape character or a character literal. So backslash is used to get characters. For instance, single quote, how can you you can't do this to mean you want to output a single quote, because you open, then close, then open, and it's just a mess. So the way that they do it is they do backslash, means the next character is a real character kind of situation. So that's how you would do a single quote as an output. Which also means the backslash is, how do you mean backslash then? So to mean backslash, you do double backslash, which actually only outputs a single backslash. Backslash n does a new line. Backslash t does a tab. Backslash a does an alert sound. It's a beep. Yeah, it's a double quote as well. Null. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay then, strings a is equal to hello, and that's pretty much that. Okay, so finally I need to go more in depth of what Console.ReadLine is. So Console.ReadLine is a function that takes an input from the user. So if I do Console.ReadLine here, then it will wait for an input and then it will output it to the console. So test, and it will output the input. But notice after that, it's still getting an input. This is from the one that keeps it open. So this creates a value from whatever you type into the console when it will return the value, but because it's not stored in a variable, it doesn't do anything. It needs to be stored and then outputted. Technically this would work if I was to cut that, wait, you gotta start the program, cut and put it there. This would work. So that's pretty much that. Another thing you can do is if we do console.write, it doesn't do a new line, so I can put user input, and then it will allow the user to type on the line, on the same line, like that. But if I was to write console.write line, then the user input would be below, as you can see. That concludes this episode.